Hello, and welcome to the Go There Do That podcast. My name is Ethan, and we're here with Heather. And today we're going to talk about Valentine's Day. This isn't actually being recorded on Valentine's Day. It's recorded the day before, but it's going to get posted on Valentine's Day. So, what does Valentine's Day mean to you, Heather? What's the significance of the day?
I don't really care. I just thought it was an idea for a podcast
Oh, well, I set up these red lights
to talk about.
behind us in
Well,
celebration.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I thought we could talk about like love and stuff and like relationships, but as far as like Valentine's Day itself, it's never really had a big significance for me, I guess. Yeah.
Love should be celebrated every day.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day is just a way of people maybe collectively doing it. But, if you want to like celebrate a relationship you're in or give a gift to somebody, it could be any day.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
So is that why it didn't really matter all that much?
It probably started from like just like me when I was like younger, just being like tough and like too cool for things. And like from a place of being like, well, I don't need anyone to love me.
Back when you thought the heart was just a muscle?
Yeah. Circa 2009 or something. Yeah. That was like one of my Facebook memories not long ago where, you are haunted by your past self. And yeah, one of my thoughts, I guess, a long time ago, I just put the heart is just a muscle. That was just my status for
That's
the day.
dark. I mean, that's one way of looking at life, 'Cause
Yeah.
throughout human history, we've considered the heart to be something more than just a muscle. But
Yeah.
that's what you meant by tough, though. It's like, hey,
Yeah. I've grown a lot more
no.
as far as like being a little more, not acting so tough and like allowing myself to be kind of loved and love other things. Yeah.
Well, there's a vulnerability
Yeah.
in loving someone.
Yeah.
What was it? The other day, I heard that love, it's not really a feeling, it's just a thing that binds you to another person. So when you're in love, you can feel sad, angry, happy, every emotion, right?
Yeah.
But I think what most people ask is like, why, when you're really mad at somebody, why am I with this person? And it's like, oh yeah, I love them.
Right.
And that's like the answer because that's what keeps you around. So it keeps the
Well,
able
like
to
somebody you don't love doesn't even have the ability to make you angry in the same way as somebody you love does. Like it's like this deep, powerful feeling. So it has the ability to like kind of accentuate your emotions, whether it's anger or joy or sadness, like with that other person. But
It's a much more honest way of, having a relationship with somebody is if you do love them. But there's a huge amount of honesty involved, right? With love. But if you do anything in love, it will turn out beautiful.
that's a quote you've been using for a while now. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you remember the first time you brought that up?
Well, it was around the time I was editing like the Sigaro video.
Yeah.
'Cause I think it's in that one.
Yeah.
If you check out our YouTube channel, go there, do that, the National Park Extravaganza. I recommend watching all of those because that sort of encompasses my love for the natural world, right?
Yeah.
I do have two rings on. I call it the two marriages, but one's the wedding ring, and then on the right hand is a ring with mountains around it, and it has "Go there, do that" inscribed inside. Yeah, but that's kind of, there will always be like a love for the natural world, nature, and
Yeah.
all that too.
I'm okay
I
with
feel
like the other woman being
Mother
Earth.
Nature.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Well, that's something that, I mean, not like critiquing anything. It's just, it feels like when you see different things, you see things differently, and there's so many like natural things to be looking at in the world, and it is like kind of a, you can be overjoyed or falling. It feels like you're falling in love in a way when
Yeah.
you're looking at something that's like crazy beautiful.
It's like falling in love with like life in a sense because you're like, oh,
Yeah.
like because you're so in that moment
Yeah.
and like fully experiencing it. Yeah. It is a form of love.
Yeah. But Alan Watts says like when you love somebody, it feels like you're telling them like, I love you so much I can't help it. Right? The same kind of thing. It's like, I don't know why. Really, there's not a whole lot of things that can truly capture like what it is, but I mean, if you go on our website, you might could see a few things.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm just trying to plug our stuff.
Apparently, yeah.
Well, I typed in our website. I told her ChatGPT to
Yeah.
search our website and tell it like what is it about,
Oh, yeah.
and it was like, oh, it just seems like there's
Couple of goofballs.
a couple of goofballs just writing about their adventures. I was like, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
It seems pretty genuine. Yeah. I don't know. So Valentine's Day, not really. You shouldn't be forced to like love somebody on a certain day, right? To get the gift.
Yeah, but I mean,
the thing.
it could just be like more of a celebration of love. Not that you can't do it any other day, but it's like a day to celebrate love. Yeah.
Yeah, universally. That's good. I don't really know the history behind it, I guess.
No clue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just always been around.
I don't think so.
Did you always? Well, did you?
Well, as far as I've been around, yeah.
Right. Well, as far as I can remember.
Oh, okay.
Well, like, what was the significance of like giving somebody a Valentine? Is really just kind of a, when you're younger, it has a sort of encouraging factor to it. You know,
Yeah.
just be like, this is the time to actually tell somebody you
Oh,
like
yeah,
them,
that's true.
you know?
Yeah, like it's like you use that day to finally tell someone how you feel. Yeah. Yeah.
So it is like encouraging.
Yeah, like I would pick out like my favorite, like, you know, when you're in elementary school and you do like Valentine's parties. And so you have a Valentine for everybody in the class, but then you pick out like your favorite one or like a special one for your like secret admirer or the person you're secretly admiring.
Well, I guess it could be
Yeah.
a secret too. Doesn't always have to be
Yeah.
public.
Yeah.
Wow. So, when you were in school, a teacher, you experienced that all the time.
That's something I'm thankful for is I will not be doing Valentine's parties tomorrow.
What were those like?
On a Wednesday in the middle of the week. I mean, it's like, okay, they're like the kids are excited all day, which makes sense. But then you're like, you basically have to like babysit them all day until you're like party. And then they pass. It's like a lot like how it was when I was in school, honestly. And then the kids passed out Valentines. A couple of the schools I was at didn't do like Valentine's parties, which I was like fine with because it's like less like, because in a lot of schools you like have a set number of days you can do parties. And so it just happened to like not be one of the party days they picked. Like they'd rather do like another like Halloween or something party. But when I was teaching in Georgetown, we always had Valentine's parties.
Man. So there were some kids at certain schools that just don't get the chance to celebrate Valentine's Day.
Not in class.
What a bummer.
Yeah. I mean, they would still bring little treats and stuff for sometimes. It just wouldn't be like a full party. Like a lot of kids would still bring stuff. and I'd let them pass them out at the end or something.
Were the kids more excited that it was just like a day to do something?
Yeah, probably that more than anything. Yeah.
That's
And
fun.
I remember, like, growing up, like, my mom would always get me something for Valentine's Day.
That's okay. So it doesn't have to be someone
Romantic love,
yeah. So it can just...
It's just a celebration of love, yeah.
That's good.
Well, and, like, today is, it's Galentine's Day.
Oh, what is that?
It was, like, established by...
Some gals?
No.
Oh.
By Leslie Knope in Parks and Rec.
Oh.
But yeah, it's like a celebration of, like, your girlfriends. Yeah.
Valentine's Day. So the day before Valentine's is for girls only, sounds like.
Yeah.
We can't really...
Yeah. Well, y'all just had Super Bowl Sunday for boys, so y'all had your
is that
boy
what guys have?
Valentine's Day.
What if you're not a fan of football?
I don't know. Yeah. It's not up to me to establish sweet little holidays for guys, I'm sorry.
I guess we don't need any.
You might. I'm not saying you don't.
Well, guys have
But
a hard
y'all
time.
have to figure that out.
We have a hard time showing love to each other.
Yeah.
Because then it gets all weird and icky. You're just like, oh no, that's...
Yeah.
We can't really say that or say, I love you, man. It's just like,
Yeah.
Boys have a hard...
It's hard,
the
yeah.
hardest time. Because then you're weak or something if you're like...
Yeah, there's a lot of
showing-
weird expectations. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad Galentine's Day exists. 'Cause
Yeah.
what is that? Well, like... What... I guess that's from the show, Parks and Rec?
Mm-hmm.
What do they do?
They, like, go to dinner with, like, their girlfriends and get each other little treats and stuff.
Why are we recording the podcast? Why aren't you doing that?
Well, I don't know.
Oh.
I just didn't have any... I don't have any... I mean, I'm not doing anything tomorrow either.
Oh, I guess we aren't doing anything for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
We're just going to post a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just today. But, yeah, I do have girlfriends that I love and appreciate. But,
That is good.
you know, yeah.
Every day. You can celebrate someone's life every day. I think that's wonderful. Well, cool.
Yeah. Speaking of love and something to love, you might be hearing O'Malley's, like, little grumbles a little bit because he's sitting next to me and just making little noises every once in a while.
You have to constantly be petting him or else he'll get up and start bugging you.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh.
There he goes.
Oh. Yeah. But yeah, so have we ever... I don't know if we've ever really done anything for Valentine's Day.
Recording a podcast the day before might be the closest
Yeah.
we've ever gotten.
Yeah. Why is that? What do you think?
Probably because we exhaust ourselves trying to do other things with each other. Like all the time, and it really just depends on our schedules when we can do those things.
Yeah.
Like, if we want to go out to dinner, we just go do that.
Yeah, but I also don't want to because I, like, well, we both used to work at Red Lobster, like, in college. And you would always, like, we would always work Valentine's Day. Which probably started us off not doing something for Valentine's Day.
Because the holidays super busy.
Yeah. But then I never, like, go out to eat on Valentine's Day now because of that. Because I'm like, it's too much. And I don't want to.
Well, everything's busy, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. It kind of ruined it for us when we...
Yeah.
Back in our college days when we worked at Red Lobster. That's crazy. I forgot about that day. We didn't even...
that day, I did it 4 years. 4 days for me.
I mean, that day of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it is wild that when you're on the other side of it, you're watching the celebrations happen.
I know. Like, I think that's a part of it. I think I like just, like, being able to have, like, a calm nothing day after, like, those 4 years of chaos, you know, in serving on Valentine's Day.
Well, after that,
so I'm like, I just want to do nothing. And that's, like, my Valentine's Day gift to myself.
Well, because it was a few years of chaos when you were teaching, too.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, after
That's
that.
true. Yeah.
Whoa. Yep. So when you have the opportunity to celebrate it, you're like, you know what? I'm going to ease up on those servers.
Yeah.
Because we were on the other side.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just super busy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
That was what, in a way, maybe we could say we like trauma bonded on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
When we first met.
Right.
Because that's how we spent it. Trauma bonded.
Yeah. Yeah. So our first Valentine's Day together would have been like almost a year after we started dating. Because we started,
mm-hmm.
you shot your shot on like February 26th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we had almost a whole year before a Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I just skipped it because I didn't know what to do.
Right. You're like, I'm not prepared. I need to not message her until after Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Shot my shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fun. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we were to celebrate, we'd probably just go to Chick-fil-A or something.
We probably have.
That's what I was thinking. There's been a time when we had to have done something at least once. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we would do.
It just doesn't stand out because it's like some days you come home and it's just like, let's treat ourselves and go to Chick-fil-A. Like it could be any day. But yeah.
So what's the point of all this? We're trying to say that if you do love somebody, don't wait for a day to tell them. Right? Valentine's Day is good.
Yeah, it's fine.
But don't wait for that day to shoot your shot. You know? Yeah. You might be waiting a whole year.
Yeah. You think about don't limit yourself to that. Yeah.
Like, what if you think about it the day after Valentine's Day? It's like, oh, shoot. I should have messaged that person. You have to wait a whole year?
Right. That's limiting.
364 days? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what's love to you, in your opinion? I already said my cool interpretation of it.
It's like making a choice to see the best in someone at all times. And whenever you see the worst in them, to still think the sun shines out of their ass anyways.
Is it like that? Does it go with that dream that I had that one time where there was just like a theater with a curtain drawn, and so I walk up onto the stage, still behind, like facing the audience, but then somebody who represents like love, like a very kind, gentle presence, and it was like, it was basically like you. Mostly when I think of it, it was like, yeah, but wasn't exactly you. It was just love in a person. And then at one point, as soon as I was like looking at them, there was like a second where it just turned into this like frightening image where it was like, like all at once. But then it was only a second, and then it goes back to that loving thing. And so I've been thinking about that dream for like years.
I know. You've told me about that dream, but I never knew that. You've always just told me that the figure was kind of ambiguous.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was tied to me.
Well, somebody represents love, so obviously you're in that.
Yeah.
But it's like when you see something, a bad part, the worst in somebody, how do you regain that, like, trust in them?
Keep loving them, yeah.
Right? Because you're like, oh, you see somebody do something once, and then that comes into forgiveness, right? It's constantly forgiving them, right? Because it should be out of your mind, that thing.
If you really forgive them.
If you're still remembering it and holding on to it, then you haven't forgiven them. And you're still thinking about that bad side of them.
Yeah.
But your interpretation of love is seeing the best in someone at all times, right? Despite
knowing
that in
because if you like when you're in a relationship for like an extended period of time, like you're going to see the good, the bad, and the ugly in that person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're like giving them a place to show that to you too, you know, because that's like being like your full self too, you know.
Who can do that?
Because I'm not always love and nice and patient and kind, you know. I'm also impulsive and hot-headed, you know. But it like is who I am as a whole. So you have to decide if you love that person for everything they are, or if you just like the things that are nice about them, because that's easy to do.
Yeah, if you can't handle me at my worst, don't deserve me at my best.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean like be a jerk either, you know.
Well, I think maybe. So let's say that somebody reveals that thing about themselves, and all you ever do after that is be like, look, see that thing, and you're constantly drawing it back out of them. If you really want that side of them to go away, you're not going to feed it energy.
Right.
Right? Because everybody is capable of whatever, right? It's not really,
At our rent house, I like ripped a door off the hinges just because I was.
You're not the Hulk, but
yeah,
it was something with the wrong towels and washer and dryer. Like we lived in a frustrating time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
also it was like I didn't. Yeah, I'm like way better at emotional regulation now, but I'm also the kind of person that can get mad enough to rip a door off its hinges.
I've seen it. But that door was old. I'm just saying. It wasn't it wasn't just ripping it off the hinges. It was like already.
Once it happened, it seemed like silly because it was like, I shouldn't have been able to do that.
But then it was like, oh, am I just going to be scared of you for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
That was funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the way we embellish the story is Heather just walked up and ripped the door off and threw it out the window. Yeah.
But also, like, when we see those parts of each other come out, I feel like we're good at being like, I didn't like setting boundaries with it. And it's like I didn't like that. I didn't appreciate that. And like, if that continues, I'm not going to tolerate that.
Yeah, I just want you to love me. I don't want you to be mean is kind of the point, right?
Right, exactly.
We just have to, if you love somebody, though, you want the best
for them.
Yeah, and if it's a genuine, like, connection that you have with somebody, you're not trying to manipulate them in any way. Like, the best side of a person is what you constantly choose to see, even if maybe at the time they're overtaken by, like, a not so nice part of themselves. It's like, I know you're still in there, and you can constantly be trying to usher that out.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, nurturing that side, yeah.
Yeah, because there are people who, are going through things and like this.
There's times in your life where it's like easier to be the best version of yourself than others,
Yeah, it's so easy. But like when somebody's really going through a struggle and you're just seeing it, and so it's like that TV show that we watched, or the last show we watched on Netflix called After Life with Ricky Gervais. Very touching show.
Yeah.
If you like Ricky Gervais humor, he's basically himself as this character. But the premise is that he is married to someone for 20 years, and then she passes away of cancer. And so all the characters know him before his wife passed away. But the him that you see starting off is like this depressed, nasty, not so nice person to everybody he's around. And so everybody around him is like, oh, like it's crazy how patient they are. So he must have been a very nice person before.
Right.
But like, they're very nice to him.
Right.
And so
because they're like, we know this isn't you.
They're like, we know that you're in there. And so they're constantly trying to see the best. And it gets really difficult for a lot of the characters. They're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But it's really a cool TV show.
Yeah. That was a good watch. Yeah, that was a good Netflix finale for us before we canceled. Yeah.
Yeah, it's canceled now. That's historic. Well, you've had it.
Yeah,
since
when I went to cancel, it was like, you've been a
college.
member since 2014. And I was like, oh.
No more Netflix and chilling. We can't do that on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
But yeah, that TV show was pretty good. Because love can transcend life and death too. And that's, if you've ever seen Interstellar, that's one thing. Anne Hathaway talks about at some point, her character. It's like, what's the one thing that can transcend space and time? Love. Like, there's no evolutionary advantage for humans to mourn the loss
Right.
of someone that passes away. Like, it's not going to further our species if you're just sad all the time about somebody. So why does love exist?
Yeah.
Like, exist at all? It's interesting. But
yeah, and it's funny, like we all always use like, TV, movies,
kind
poetry, literature to try to like explain love.
because you can't really nail it down.
Yeah.
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 It can be palpable to some, but it's normally done through action. Like, there's a quote: "Take a gamble that love exists, and do a loving act." Like, even if you don't believe in it, you can still count on it.
You can still show love
existing by doing something that is loving, and that's incredibly hard to do when it's like maybe you're in an environment that
it's a lot easier to do that when it's reciprocated.
Yes, but is it conditional? Is love conditional? Like,
Yeah.
in order.
I struggle with that. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
because to me it is like such a choice. So then that part of it makes it feel conditional, But then it's also unconditional for me in a sense that it is a choice. Like, I'm still choosing to do it, if that makes sense. Because to me, like, unconditional love in the way that it's explained sometimes, to me, seems like blind love, kind of. But, like, I do have, like boundaries where it's like, but I guess it wouldn't keep me from like loving someone, but it would keep me from like interacting with someone.
What does that look like if you love someone without interacting with them?
You still love someone, but
love them from afar.
Yeah.
Because you're still caring. You're still, the thoughts in your head are still there. But loving yourself is also a very difficult thing to know when to do that, when not to, right? Because you're like, oh, I love myself, I'm going to do this. But then that can quickly turn into selfishness.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly showing yourself self-love, and it's like, oh, that's a narcissist or something, you know? And so it's like hard to describe, obviously.
Yeah.
But that reciprocation is sort of going back to nature, let's say, because nature doesn't really care whether or not I'm looking at it.
Doesn't love you back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's indifferent, right?
Yeah.
But it creates this thing that evokes an emotion within me that is, I'm like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. So somehow it is giving us something, because why else would it exist? Why else would our eyeballs be able to perceive the colors of the northern lights that are very beautiful, right? If that wasn't like some sort of thing that was given to us by, like there are things that we all consider beautiful universally as people. Yosemite Valley, right? Why do we preserve national parks? It's aesthetic value. There's love and beauty. Like when something's beautiful, it's like, I love that thing, and it should be kept on a pedestal.
Yeah, I just read a book called I think it was called The Ugly truth about beautiful things or something like that. And it was basically like about like why we love things that are like beautiful, like where that comes from and like some of the history.
I didn't know that.
Behind that. Yeah.
So what's that about?
Well, like, I'm trying to think of like a specific example. Like the one chapter I really liked, it's basically a collection of essays, was about like mirrors and like our relationship throughout history, like with mirrors and what that like has meant to us as like people. But that also has like defined our relationship with ourselves in a sense. Yeah. But then there was also like an essay, a chapter about like the history behind like why we love flowers and like what like draws us to that and everything. So it was like an interesting read because sometimes you feel like guilty for like thinking something's beautiful and like wanting to like where does that come from, you know, where you're like, I want to possess this like beautiful thing, but it's like kind of natural to like be drawn to something that you find beautiful, like scent, like a scent, so like a little rock, whatever. But yeah,
so like our five senses can perceive something
as beautiful.
So you said you wanted to capture it if it's beautiful?
Not always. No, but I mean, like, you do, I feel like you do experience, like, this feeling of, like, wanting to capture it. But then, probably back to love, like, if you really, like, respect how beautiful it is, like, you have to be willing to, like, not hoard it and, like, let it go. Yeah.
Yeah. I always think of, like, love as a very good example, I think, is if you ever want like a deer to approach you, like a very timid, shy deer out in the woods, you can't just run up to it and be like, hey, come over here. Because it's going to, you know, if you are calm and present and non-threatening, it'll come up to you and stare at you and you're able to appreciate it, right? And I think that's sort of, in a way, the relationship to have with people too, because you can't be like, get over here. Because it's going to evoke that feeling. Some people might come over there, right? But it's still going to evoke that feeling of like, I don't really want to do this because...
I don't want to be captured.
Right. I don't want to, be captured. What you just said, yeah. Like...
Oh, I'm like, I'm anti-capturing.
One concept of what the opposite of love is control.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And that can be applied in a bunch of different ways in real life. Several different ways. So if you absolutely don't love someone, try to control them 1,000%. You know, like that is, but it's really freeing to know that you are actively making a choice, as am I, right, in this relationship. It is like both of us bound together by our own choices.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's... yeah, I feel like I've grown a lot in, like, I mean, we're like married, so yeah, of course, like I love you, whatever, but I do think that a lot of people are married and don't love each other, so it's not like 1 + 1 = 2 in that scenario, but like what I've noticed, as I've like reflected on like our relationship and everything in recent times is like, I do find myself like trying really, really hard to kind of not be imprinting like what I want onto you, like when you're impressionable, you know?
Well, describing when I'm saying like a story or something, I'm not like asking you what should I do, and you get very quiet because I'm like, oh no, she's letting me decide what to do.
Because
oh
I'm
no,
like,
yeah, but
because I can't. I'm like, I'm paying attention to like if it's like pivotal, you know,
Oh yeah.
like this is a decision he needs to make, and I need to like not put like my control and like what I might want the outcome for me to be in this into it. And that's like really hard to do because it's a very natural thing to want to do, to like kind of manipulate. Yeah.
I think the need for control comes from our need for security as like humans.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's like this completely ugly, disgusting thing.
Like
I think
safety.
it definitely comes from that. Yeah.
So maybe love, I said earlier, love is what binds you to another person, but that should be the only thing that binds you to them, not like legal, financial.
Well, I
other
can't.
things,
I
right?
can't stand like obligation and like expectation. Well, not necessarily expectations, but like anything that like comes with an obligation. I don't like.
Like
And
Valentine's
so, right, that's probably where that comes from. Yeah, exactly. So, I think for us, like our relationship got way better for us when we stopped like paying attention to like obligations and like expectations from like outside forces, you know? Cuz like yeah, I mean like when we planned our like wedding
Day. Oh snap!
the first time, it was very much like it felt like this draw and like pull from like outside expectations. Like, well, this is the next thing that you do. You've been together for X amount of time, whatever. Like, you've lived together for a long time and, you know, grew up like Christian or whatever. And so it's like, we should probably like get married. But it felt very much like an outside expectation. And like, I think that's why we wound up not getting married that time.
Should we provide context for when you said the first time?
I guess, yeah.
Oh, well, we were going to get married once and then we called it off. Mostly because it didn't feel right.
It felt gross, yeah, because it felt like this like weird looming expectation, obligation thing. And I'm not saying that wasn't like also on us because it's like, you know, we could have been mature enough to be like, there's not really an expectation on this, but it is like this weird societal and like familial expectation.
It was our choice to like plan the wedding that way, though.
Yes.
Is the thing. Yeah.
Yes. But I think, and then, yeah, we just like called it off. And then we like just were like not even engaged for a while, but we were like still together.
Yeah.
And then we got married later. But it was just like, once we like decided that we didn't really care what other people thought, because people thought it was weird that we broke up, called off our wedding, and then we like moved to Fort Worth together.
I think people
without telling anyone what was going on.
Assume you're broken up if you call off a wedding,
right?
You know.
Yes, and then and then we're just like together, but we don't really like talk to anybody about us, and we just like were in our relationship, just kind of us two at that point. Yep. And then you got offered the job in Round Rock, and I was like, oh, well, I don't want to like move. Like, we're just like dating, I guess. And I like want to be in Fort Worth, and so I'm not going to like move with like my boyfriend. But it also wasn't like I hate you or we're breaking up. It was just like, oh, I'm not moving with you if we're like dating.
It was like, what if we got married next week?
Yeah. And I thought, I mean, because it was like kind of giving you an ultimatum, but I also wasn't like trying to give you an ultimatum, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't have an expectation. Like, I didn't like even want you to propose to me, if that makes sense. It was just like, well, I don't want to move if we're not. Anyways. And then you were like, yeah, let's do it. And then we got married in a week.
Yeah, there was no choice.
But it was all us. Like, it was, and then, yeah, people were like, what the heck are you doing? Is this an April Fool's joke?
Oh, yeah.
But we stopped listening to other people and obligations and expectations.
Yeah.
And
The wedding was much cheaper
Yeah.
than the original.
Yes.
We
Yes.
had that for other adventures, like moving to a new city, which was expensive.
Yeah.
But it was like we were investing in our journey more than an event, a single event in our,
Right.
you know.
Right. And it's like some of the obligations and expectations were literally like made up in our heads,
Well, yeah.
you know? So just like relieving yourself of that, I think is the reason we're still together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like we have broken that down even more. Yeah. Throughout.
Mm. You're saying
Our
we like each other
relationship.
a little bit?
Yeah. I feel very binded to you
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. Like yeah.
That's, I mean, going back to what this whole podcast is, the Go There Do That podcast, Go There Do That in general. I said we need to do something like together.
Together. Yeah.
Like we need to be able to accomplish something that our relationship is doing, not just our own separate little hobbies that we have or jobs.
Right.
Like this is our way of like connecting.
Yeah.
With something that actually does see some, really cool results, I think. And then, it's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying start up a LLC with the person you're married with, but it does help to start up a little joint project that you can create together.
Most people just have kids.
That's a big one. That's a pretty big one.
But we're not ready for that yet. So
Yeah.
we started, or maybe ever. So we started this project.
An LLC. That's true. This is like a little baby.
Yeah.
It's just a little 3-year-old baby.
Yeah. Something that we tend to and have in common and connect over.
3 years old this month.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun. That's true. I forgot about that.
Also speaking of love, like, I don't know, this is going to sound
Oh gosh.
crazy, but I don't know. I've just always been very like skeptical of love and like tough and kind of cold-hearted and like logical to a fault sometimes. And so like even probably when we like got married and stuff, I'm like, we're married, I love you, but I don't think that I like knew what love was like between us until like more recent years. Probably within the past like 3 years.
Yeah.
Because even, I don't know, but like seeing, I don't know, like someone can say they love you every day, but like it really comes through by like actions. And then, so it's really hard for me to like deny that you love me and I am lovable when I like see a video you've created and you're like portraying me. Like it's clear that you like love me by the way that you portray me on camera.
Interesting observation.
Yeah. But it's also like it's also like come from you making me feel like loved and safe to even like be on camera. Because it's not something that I would have been comfortable with had we not like built a lot of trust and like love between us first.
Back when the heart was just a muscle.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad that's something that is accomplished. Palpable.
What does that mean?
It's like able to be seen. Obvious, I think. There's something, now I don't really know too much about it, but this guy named Ram Dass talks about this thing called yoga through relationship. And what that is being able, because, yoga, meditation, and all that, that's you reflecting and being with yourself and like learning. You can do that anytime.
Mm-hmm.
And this concept is doing it with another person. And you can do it with all relationships, right? You can always learn and grow,
Mm-hmm.
but it is sort of a meditative experience to be with another person that you're also growing in life with. Because we were talking about how we worked at Red Lobster, right? We've been
And we were in college. Yeah.
together for like 10 years, but
Yeah.
we've seen ourselves grow and evolve into different people slowly, but we also know that we can continue to change and evolve,
Right.
which is scary to think about if you're like, what if this person just becomes
well, that's something I've learned, like even not that long ago. I remember you were like you were working through stuff, and you were like going on a bunch of walks by yourself and like reading a bunch of books and like really being like very independent, but also like doing things that were out of the ordinary. Not even that they were all healthy things too, but it still like freaked me out. And I remember like it being in the kitchen one day and I was like, what did I say? It was like, I don't know who you are right now or something. Yeah. Like I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like, what are you becoming? And it like freaked me out because at the time I was like, oh, what if he morphs into like someone different than he is right now because I love who he is right now. But I was like very small-minded and like not realizing that you were going to grow into that person and I was going to grow in like loving that person. Right. Because now I'm like, that's Ethan,
Yeah.
But at the time it was like scary. But now I like recognize that where I'm like, yeah, of course, like things can change and he can do different things. But that was like hard at that time because I do think that it can be easy enough to like put someone you're in a relationship with in like this box of like who you think they are.
We fall more.
And I've been put in that
Yeah.
box by not like necessarily you, but like people who are like, you're this person, you can't leave that. But like you should be able to be whoever you want to be, and I should be able to be someone different than I was yesterday, and I should be someone different than I was yesterday.
Yeah. That's falling in love with the idea of a person.
Right.
Your image of someone instead of
them.
What they are right now. Yeah. So you're saying it was scary when I started reading?
Well, yeah, like I remember being like, yeah, because like I was likely thinking unhealthy and was like, oh no, he's going to get out of this box. What if I don't like this new person,
Captured.
I know, yeah.
That's interesting.
Luckily I didn't keep you there, yeah.
Well, yeah, but it was because I think the issue was I wasn't like letting you in on it too. Like I was just doing it by myself and like I would come upstairs and like start reading and writing stuff and it was just like, what are you doing? What are you up to? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know how to describe
Yeah, I
this.
guess that's a part of it is like at a certain point you like let me in and you're like, this is what I'm doing.
I didn't know how to articulate
it. And I'm like,
it.
oh, okay, yeah, that's fine.
Because I do a lot of things without my exact knowledge of knowing
where it's going,
what I'm doing. It's just like I feel like I need to do this to work through something because if I just sit around and do nothing, then I'll regress or there's only two routes you can take. It's progression or regression. You can either be growing or shrinking as a person, and that's what sucks. Is like it's scarier. Well, we just watched the movie Click.
Oh yeah, last night.
Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
And that movie, if you get past like the humor,
I hadn't watched it since I was like, well, what? It came out in 2007.
Something like that.
So probably in 2007. So I was like in like 7th grade, 8th grade. So like not at a maturity level to understand it.
Oh my gosh.
On the level I do now.
Like it is before like the technology we have now, but it's kind of kind of a social commentary on technology, and because he can fast forward through moments he doesn't like.
Yeah.
But it's literally just disassociation.
Because he's still there. Yeah.
But he's like, what did I do? What did I say? You don't remember anything
But
about
I'm like,
that.
we literally do that. Like, I catch myself doing that sometimes.
Well, you literally say goodbye if we're like driving on I-35 or something.
Oh, I do have to disassociate, yeah.
But I guess that's a powerful tool to have as humans, because when you're like, nope, I'm protecting myself from this moment.
Yeah.
But if it's moments that you need to be experiencing and enjoying and you're gone, and then really you're either facing the pain in the moment and being like, I know that this will end at some point.
Yeah.
Like I'm aware of the sadness that this implies when I love this thing. But I'm feeling it now, because later in the movie, he's crawling through a parking lot and telling everybody, like, I love you, I'm so sorry, at his last moments. So you can either feel it now or feel everything later.
Right.
And then what? Like, he redeems himself barely, but it's crazy how, like, I don't know, that's a good movie.
But it just goes to show, like, it's not worth, like, skipping through the bad parts, because there's going to be good parts within those bad parts. And, like, we've experienced that, where it's oh, this is terrible. Like, how do you find any joy in anything that's going on right now? And then a moment happens and you're like, oh, this is a beautiful moment within this terrible moment.
But you can't leave.
Right. Like, you just have to experience all of it, which is...
It sucks.
Yeah.
So, what is it? Freedom is choosing how you react to what happens to you. But if anxiety is the dizziness of freedom, right, it's more about limiting the choices that you have in the moment. Because if you say, I am devoted to this one single thing, and like a timeless priority, which is like learning, and you can learn in every single moment you ever live.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care who you are. But if you are like, there's nothing to learn from this, there's nothing to gain from this moment, goodbye, I don't want to remember it, right? That takes away the value of such a crazy, like, experience that you could pick apart. It's gonna suck and be painful, but like in the movie Click, whenever he like forgot or something that his dad died, because he fast forwarded through like the last moment he had, and he's like, hey, you're like, his son is telling him, like, Grandpa's dead.
Yeah.
And then he starts feeling it all of a sudden, because he's like there, and he's like, oh no, why? And they're like, oh, he does this sometimes because he forgets or literally isn't there during the moment of it happening. And yeah, so you limit the choices that you have by like a virtue or like something that you're dedicated to, which a good one is love too. Like, if you love all people and creatures and things in life, that's a pretty good priority to have. But it becomes all more painful because it is a very vulnerable state to be in. Yeah. Like, you're going to be feeling everything. But it's better to feel it as it's happening, and then it washes away just like any other emotion, than to avoid it and then let it stack on top of itself, because your brain is always going to be like, we need to process this forever. Like, I think forever. If you don't actually recognize the moment, like, it's going to be there forever. But anyways, that's just one take that I have on something. That's just one perspective. So you don't have to be agreeing or disagreeing. It's just one concept. Because it can be approached at 100 different angles. Like, just like any moment, you can examine it. You can overanalyze stuff, but like, when you find your brain, like, if you keep on, what is it? We heard it's like a memory is just an undigested experience. Like, a memory you keep coming back to is just something that you're like, why do I keep thinking of that? It's because your brain's like, hey, there's something else here. But you're always like, I don't know. That's what walks are good for me with. Yeah. Because I'm like actively.
What do I need to stir up? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I can This is weird.
And work through, yeah.
Like journaling is good too, but like I can feel when something unprocessed is, it's like a week. It's been much shorter now, but like I can feel it like a week in advance where I'm like, oh, there's something I need to like address or recognize.
Yeah.
And then it comes, that happened a few times, but now it's like a very short amount of time now if I don't do it in the time of it happening.
Yeah.
Like a day or so. But
Right.
but that, I don't know if that's like a crazy weird thing or not, but
Well,
like,
I mean, because even if you're 28 years old and you're like realizing that, like, well, I need to just feel it when it happens. Like you've had 28 years worth of experiences before that that you haven't necessarily processed or like had that same mindset through.
yeah.
So there can be like old stuff too that comes up and you're like, "Oh,
Whoops.
yeah."
Look at that. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. And I've been studying or trying to study like the unconscious and all that stuff too. And like
How do you study the unconscious?
by listening to yourself, like you can recognize behaviors that you do
You're
that you don't.
unconscious.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Well, Jung talks about the collective unconscious too, but that's
Yeah.
complicated. So, but yeah, you can recognize that you're doing something unconsciously, and once you're like, sometimes it takes somebody else to point it out, and you're like, "Hey, did you know that you do this?" And it's like, "No," and you can say, "Oh, I didn't know that. I'm sorry," or you could be like, "No, I don't," and then bury it deeper. If it's coming from a trusted
Right.
source, right?
Right.
Because you can be gaslit into believing stuff about yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what's so tricky is we can believe real things or not. It just depends on who you actually trust and know, and that is a crazy thing
Yep.
to like actually be with somebody that you trust fully. That's wild.
Yeah.
But who do you take advice from? Like, what's a person that you like are prone to believe? Like, what are qualities? You know? Nobody? I'm just kidding.
I mean, honestly, everybody. I just like pick and choose what, like there's no one I'm like written off and I'm like, I'll never listen to anything
That's
they
good.
say. It's just like, yeah, kind of, I don't know. Sometimes you can like feel it in your gut too. If it's like, oh, that's something that like resonates with me, or that's something I'm rejecting. No way, no how is that being put into like my, unconscious or conscious or whatever, or like my morals.
So do you think in order to like love someone or trust somebody else, you have to do that with yourself first? Like trust your gut, trust your instinct, love yourself?
I don't know. I don't know. I think you have to be open to loving yourself to do that with someone else.
How do you think you do that?
Like, how do you think you open yourself to loving yourself?
What makes someone go from thinking the heart is just a muscle to to something else, to knowing that it's more than just that?
Yeah, I would say a lot of like openness to the world and yourself, trying to deconstruct a lot of bad feelings about yourself and like, yeah, learning to love yourself. I think the only reason I didn't just say yes to that is because I know that I like love you, but there are some days where I have a hard time like loving myself still. And so it's like, well, technically I can love you even if I don't love myself every day. But like as a whole, I've done a lot of work in like figuring out that I'm not a piece of crap person. And,
That's good.
Yeah.
I think it's...
And that's on religious trauma.
Oh, religious. Religion.
Yeah, we don't have to go into that. But I mean, essentially it comes from like being raised that you're inherently bad. And yeah, that's hard to get through.
Sinful creatures.
And that's my personal experience. Like, you can't, I don't know. I can't say that for everyone or everything, or that it's all bad or whatever. But like, for my personal experience, yeah, it definitely made it hard to think of myself as like a good person.
Oh. Well, so it's good to be able to say that now.
Yeah.
I think, because, yeah, that's tough. That's rough. That's a interesting thing, though. Yeah. So you can love somebody, not love yourself. But being honest with yourself is one of the hardest.
It makes it a lot easier to love somebody. And I think, and probably to love someone really and not in the box.
What? Oh.
Yeah. Of like,
control.
Well, I love you if you are doing this.
The conditions.
And if you, right. And if you fit into that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
As long as you're doing this, we'll stay
Because,
together.
yeah, I think you have to like accept that you have flaws and that's okay. To be able to like forgive that in someone else too. Although I'm harder on myself than other people. So on the flip side of that, I'm like, oh, you have flaws and that's okay. But then my flaws bother me more.
Well, you can feel guilt. You just shouldn't feel like shame about feeling certain feelings about yourself.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, at the time of me doing something dumb, I feel dumb.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
that doesn't mean you are dumb.
I'm not a dumb person.
Yeah.
I just did a dumb thing.
Yeah.
But if you can't let yourself move past that thing, that if it's undigested right and you're not able to admit like, well, I'm not dumb all the time. That's where it goes back to, right? Just being present with the moment of feeling silly is important too. But it's hard to do whenever you got all this ego involved or whatever. And it's just like,
it's hard to face if you've done, I still have a hard time admitting when I was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I can do it.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to.
It's just hard. It'll probably always be hard.
Well, a communication method too is like, nobody has to hear it be said, right? Because like you said, it's through action, right? And apologies do help with a lot of things. But if it's like, I know I messed up.
Oh, I could care less if somebody says I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah.
But if they like change, then I'm like, that's all I need.
Yeah.
You could never say sorry to me in my life, and I still forgive you if your like actions changed.
Yeah.
And then you could also, on the flip side of that, you could apologize to me. It really doesn't mean anything to me until I've seen a change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The I'm sorry really is just like words.
Yeah.
Because again, the love is just through action.
Right.
Like you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what are we getting at here? Love is complicated.
Yeah.
Love is blind.
Yeah.
You can celebrate it.
But we love each other. Yeah. And so if you've ever wondered why the heck we're even doing any of this and why we have a podcast or why we make any videos or why we have a website or whatever, it's love. That's all it is.
You heard it from Heather here first. That's a good stopping point, though. So we will go ahead and sign off. And happy Valentine's Day. And remember to go there, do that. Doesn't mean adventure out across the world. You could just experience something new wherever you are. Anyways, see you later. Have a great time. Bon voyage.
All right.
That's all.